go. Hey everyone, I'm Ryan. You're watching 60 Cycle Hum, and I'm about to unbox this great big cardboard thing that says Fender on it. What could it be? What could it be? You already know because you read the title of the video. It is the Fender GTX 100. I think that's the model number. So Fender hit me up a little while ago, like, hey, you want to check this thing out? Of course I want to check it out. I want to check everything out. But I'm a little bit curious to see how this is going to go, because years back I bought one of the GT40s, which is a predecessor to this line of amps, and I did not like it at all. So I'm really hoping that I like this one. I never want to get something in that I don't like. The GT40 had issues with it. It had two speakers, and it's listed as a 40-watt amplifier, but in reality it's two 20-watt amplifiers going to each one of those little speakers. There was something about the way those speakers would mix that would just cause it to sound out of phase all the time. When I would plug that amp into my computer and use it as more, or like a, like a multi-effect sort of thing, it sounded fine through my computer speakers. There was something about its actual speakers that made it sound bad. So this is a 1x12, I think. Yep, 1x12. And get started. Connect with the Fender Tone app. The Wi-Fi app thing. Comes with a pedal here to control the amp. Fender GTX-7. Bunch of switches on here. Bank up, FX1, FX2, 3, 4, 5, and then a mode. And you can hold for tuner, built-in tuner. That's fun. This whole thing has a like a pool toy smell to it. All right, I'm gonna get an overhead cam set up on this thing so you can see what I'm doing as I'm playing with it and get it all set up and start just, checking this thing out. I'm not gonna, know everything about it. I'm not gonna dial in the best tones doing an unboxing sort of format here, but I'm sure later on I'll spend some good time with this and figure out, the ins and the outs, the nitties and the gritties. All right, we've got it all set up here. I initially set it up with the amp facing the camera, which I quickly realized is idiotic because I'm not going to be able to hear what the amp sounds like from the front. I mean, I wanted you to be able to see the front of the amp, but you don't need to see the front of the amp. Come on. You know what an amp looks like. So let's turn this thing on, see what it sounds like, go through some of the presets, maybe explore some of them a little bit if I can figure out the user interface. I remember the user interface on the GT40 being fairly easy. There's a whole, like connect it with Bluetooth sort of thing. I'm not going to get into that in this video because I don't want to spend the time figuring it out and like downloading updates and whatnot. All right, it opens up on a twin reverb clean. I'm going to use the Fender Lead 3 because this is a great demo guitar for me. I can have neck or bridge humbucker or single coil sounds, and I like playing it. I mean, also, it's a Fender guitar. They sent me this guitar, they sent me this amp. I might as well play them together. I do have the foot controller plugged in. It lit up. Bank up. I'm going to try out the hold tuner. Oh, we have a tuner screen. The lights on the foot switch, these 5 lights light up as a tuner as well. Middle is in tune, and then it deviates to the sides, and it tells you the note that it's detecting right there in the middle. Pretty convenient. It's nice that this thing comes with its own foot switch too. Hint, hint, other amps that don't come with their foot switch. All right, twin reverb clean. All the physical knobs are turned all the way down right now, so it's only the preset settings. that sounds pretty dang decent. It is a modeling amp kind of experience. It doesn't feel like you're working a real circuit. It sounds like, you know, like a model that you would find on, you know, an HX Stomp or something like that, being played through a loudspeaker, through, you know, computer monitors or something like that. It doesn't have that kind of amp feel to it, but it sounds good. It's going to be loaded with features. It's got a lot of controls here. I bet I could dial this in to sound a lot better, to my taste anyways. It has a compressor on it. Let's see if we can turn that off. Bypass. I just turned off the compressor. I've never used this user interface before. Now that sounds more natural to me as an amp. I don't typically use compressors. Yeah, that's decent. So top switch controls, preset, that switch controls the things you have loaded on here. You can add stuff and take things away. This switch controls this bottom bank, vector controls. And then there's effects, save, menu, tap, features over here. I'm not going to get into all that right now. Let's just scroll through some of the presets. Bridge humbucker, classic rock setting. I know what this is probably going to want to sound like. Maybe it's more of a... That's it. Also, I wasn't playing that AC/DC stuff very good, was I? Country Twang. Of course it has a compressor on it. 65 Deluxe, 65 Spring. Tweed Sugar. I feel like I need a fresh tune. Uber Metal. The metal setting sounds pretty decent once I turned up the volume. I think something I encounter a lot, kind of modeling sorts of sounds, is that certain settings sound really bad quiet, like really bad. But then you turn them up and they sound good, and it's because of what they're based around is an amp that's huge, like some sort of 8x12 stack with 100-watt amp on top of it that's turned all the way up, and when you turn it down low, it just doesn't sound right from a quiet amplifier. Something about it sounds wrong, but you turn it up and all of a sudden it makes sense again. Maybe that's obvious, but let's keep going. Ambient wash. SoCal punk. Is that what I am? Am I a Southern California punk? Guess we'll find out, right? There's something kind of nasal about that patch that I don't like. Oh, it's got a pedal detune on it. That's what's giving it that sound. I thought it was like a weird thing like I experienced with the GT40 where it was like out of phase or something. It had a pedal detune on it, like intentionally giving it that sound. Is that something SoCal punks do? Do they put a pedal detuner? Surf Splash. I don't know. Fender amp. Let's see what you've got dialed in. Right off the bat, it's got a Bassman as the amp. I don't think that's a strong start to a surf setting. 63 spring reverb on there though. Stop. Time out. We're going to take a break from this unboxing. Geez. When it was all said and done, when the dust settled on this video that I mostly recorded yesterday, it ended up being an hour long. And the vast majority of that content was me scrolling through all 189 presets that are on this amp. And as fun as it sounds, watching someone play through 189 presets over an hour, there's a lot of information about this amp that I just didn't fully get when I unboxed it yesterday. And after I shot the video, I sat down and I played with it and just had some fun with it. And I learned a few things. I still don't know everything about it, but there's some things I learned that I think are important, especially in a video like this. It might be your first introduction to this amp. Stuff everyone's got to know, because I didn't know it, and if I'd known it yesterday, it would have become like the focus of my attention in the video instead of 189 presets. So anyways, let's talk about some of this important stuff, and then I'm going to go back and I'm just going to like cut in the ups and the downs, the highlights of all those presets. You don't need to watch them all. That's stupid. It's too much. So anyways, let's talk about this amp. Now that I've had a little bit more experience with it, it's got this foot switch. I think this is the core of the experience with this amp. This is great. This opens it up in so many fun ways. You've got a 7-button foot switch here. You've got a mode switch. It goes between presets. That allows you to select between a bank of 5 presets from the 200, a bank up and down switch. You hold it down to bank up. You can also hold down the mode to get a tuner. I think I covered that. You've also, when you press this, you can go to effects. Now in that individual patch that you're in, you can turn the 5 available effects on or off. It's like a mini pedal board. That's fantastic. And then, I didn't discover this until the very end of that hour-long video yesterday. It has a built-in looper. Record, overdub, play, stop, undo. It's a 60-second looper. More than enough time for someone to lay down a rhythm track and then practice playing lead over it. I was having a bunch of fun playing with this last night. Super easy to use, super intuitive. I think that's a huge deal. And this is a $500 100-watt amplifier that's full of all kinds of amps and effect types and things like that, and a built-in looper. This is a guitar starter. This is a wonderful, like, first guitar amp for anyone. I wish this thing existed when I was a teenager, because it would have changed my life. I think that's a great deal this year, last year, any year in the past. Whether or not it makes the sounds that you like, if you are a more experienced guitarist, you're going to be more discerning, and you may or might not like the way this amp sounds. That's fine. but I think I could wholeheartedly recommend this thing to a new player, as I understand it right now. So let's talk about some other stuff. As I was exploring the presets yesterday, we'll do kind of like a highlight thing here. I discovered this surf splash setting. And I think I'm probably going to interrupt my discovery of the surf splash with this section of the video. So I didn't like the way this was set up. They've got a bassman as the amp for a surf setting. And it doesn't sound awful, but it's definitely not what I would dial in as a classic surf sound. So let's use a patch that I made last night and tweaked a little bit today. We'll go to the effects setting here on the foot switch. This is with a dual showman. That's a classic surf rock amp. That's what they should have put on there. So I put a tremolo on this patch. Of course, I put a fuzz on this patch, and I dialed it in pretty dang light. The very fuzz. This is for digging in with that Link Ray torn speaker sort of sound. And then I even put an extra reverb on here in case I want to get extra deep. See, I put a large hull after the amp. The 63 spring is before the amp. I'm showing you all this just to show it was pretty easy for me to dial this thing in, to find sounds that I like. The presets are fun. They're a great place to start, but I think this amp can offer so much more than what the presets do, especially for someone like me who doesn't necessarily play around in classic rock style sounds. Yeah, cool. I can sound like Eric Johnson with a certain patch. I'm never going to play like him. Oh, cool, an AC/DC patch. I don't play like AC/DC. You know, I don't play like Malcolm or Angus. But the fact that I can find, there's a couple amps in here that would have worked really well for the surf patch, but the dual showman was just, you know, the one that I picked. There's a couple versions of twin reverbs and, you know, deluxe reverbs and stuff like that, super reverbs. There was a bunch of amps in here that are great. And so I just wanted to, you know, show off what I learned in a really short period of time. Like, I know this isn't technically an unboxing anymore. It's a second impressions, but in an evening, in a short afternoon, I was able to find some sounds that I really like with this. The reverb is far from being, you know, my perfect drippy reverb, but I can get some perfectly acceptable, like, surfy tones out of this. If I really needed that drip, I could throw a different pedal in front of it or something like that. But as an amp that's just going to sit, you know, in a room in my house and be a jam amp for me, where I play around with my family hanging out and stuff like that, I'm totally fine with that tone that I've dialed in already. So let's check out the looper now. We'll have some fun with this patch. Throw the looper on the floor and record something. Sorry you don't have a camera on this. You'll just have to, you know, understand that my foot is pressing buttons. Let's do like a Link Ray style thing. You get the idea. It's easy. And once you got the loop going, you can use the mode on the foot switch while the loop is running to go back to select a completely different patch or change the effects that you have in the patch and just build little patches and songs and loops and stuff like that. This is a great jamming tool. I'm really impressed with it. I mean, during the unboxing, I was like, oh, I don't like this preset, or oh, that preset's fine. The core of this amp is fun, and I thought it would be a disservice to not kind of revisit in this way. So anyways, please enjoy the rest of this unboxing, me playing through, you know, all these different patches. I'll try to just pick the ones that I think are entertaining. I'm not trying to, you know, like self-censor myself or anything like that, or, you know, hide anything about this amp. It's a $500 modeling amp. At times it feels like a modeling amp. At times you can dial it in real nice and it feels like a real amp in the room. It really comes down to the presets that you build, the patches that you build, and you know, the strength of the effects that are in there. So anyways, enjoy the rest of this video, and thanks for humoring this little interruption. I don't know about that. Obviously, I'm going to have to spend some time dialing in my own surf patch because it's underserved in that patch. Blues Jr. Silver Drive, whatever that is. Another one where the patch, the volume is too low. It needs more volume to sound good. It has this nasal kind of hair metal, Queenish sort of thing going on. Stray Cat. This is a dual showman and a space delay and a small room reverb. I know what they're going for with this. Obviously trying to do the Brian Setzer, you know, like a slapback style echo. I think I would maybe start with this channel, trying to dial in my own surf channel. The dual showman is dialed in really nice. I just take out that delay and throw in the spring reverb, and then maybe throw another reverb after it to fill it out a little bit better. But I mean, that patch sounds really great right off the bat. It sounds like an amp. The way it's dialed in feels more like an amp. It's really going to come down to how good you are at dialing in patches with this thing to make it, you know, kind of perform its best. Bass breaker delay. Chorus funk. DLX and fuzz. Deluxe and fuzz. It has a round fuzz and a 65 spring after the amp. Acoustic. Jazz clean. Did I jazz it? I don't think I did. Synth whiz. Synthesizer wizard? Ooh. That ought to annoy your parents. Hell's Gate. I'm going to guess AC/DC sounds. Again, like I was saying earlier, this kind of sounded bad with the volume down. I had to bump the volume up a bit, and all of a sudden it sounded good again. You can get, you know, bedroom volumes with this really nicely. You know, it's a 100-watt amp, but it's, you know, all digital modeling and whatnot. It can turn down really nice, but there's something about these patches that are meant to emulate big, just cranked stacks that doesn't work at low volumes. And I've experienced this with all kinds of modelers. Like, you have to have enough air moving around for this patch to sound good. Otherwise, it just sounds thin and small. Then you turn it up and it gets massive sound. It's kind of one of those things where there's no such thing as good and bad tone. There's appropriate and inappropriate tone. Like, by itself, this is kind of nasal, kind of thin, pretty bright. But then in a mix with a band, it does what it's supposed to do. It sounds like AC/DC. Like, there's a lot of classic tones that are that way, that by themselves you're like, oh, that's not very good. But in a mix, they just shine. Decent 80s sounds. Master of Mullets. Oh my goodness. Someone's having fun with that name. Harmonic vibrato. That sounds pretty damn decent. Blues 1951. Purple Rain. Makes me wish I actually knew how to play some Prince. At some point my camera went out up here. Irish Anthems. What an oddly specific name. Yeah, I think I know what this is supposed to be. Purple Fuzz. I'm gonna play anything but Hendrix. That's one that just feels really great in a room right off the bat. Like, I'd grab that patch and I'd start building stuff around it. 90s American amp. One of these Another one, right off the bat. This sounds great in a room. Spoonful, whatever that's supposed to reference. Yeah, it just sounds huge in room. Wild Nocturne. Sustained. It's literally just a patch with a really hot compressor before twin reverb. That 60 thrift amp, I like the sound of that. Whatever I just did flubbed that speaker out hard. This is a big fuzz, probably a big muff, in front of a British Watts and a sine chorus. Clearly trying to do like a Pink Floyd thing. It sounds huge in room, but this patch threw too much at the speaker and it just flubbed it hard a few seconds ago. So something to think about. This is a 100-watt amp, and I think you can get 100 watts of headroom clean out of it, but I think certain effects are going to limit what you can do with it just based off of what just happened. Ethereal feel. Sine flanger. Nasty champ. There's a twin reverb sound. I think there's some great amp sounds locked up in this. I just need to get outside of the presets and build my own patches. The speaker, plenty loud enough, plenty amount of headroom on this thing. I think you could freak it out with, the wrong combination of effects. But at the right settings, at the right volume, it's starting to feel and sound like an amp to me, especially on certain settings. All right. Princeton reverb. I own a real Princeton reverb. Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's good. Yeah, I'd have to spend some time dialing that in, maybe comparing it to my real Princeton. Deluxe reverb. It seems like the back end of the presets are all kind of just dialed in Fender sounds. Which is nice. It's probably a good place for me to start, for someone like me anyway. Ah, there's that bright ice pick twin sound right there. Bassman beef. Wanted an Excelsior. JC chorus. I was clipping my recorder. Cheap Silvertone. This is a little bit of a dig at Silvertone Fender. It's that 60s Thrift amp. I need to revisit that thing. Brit Stat Clean. British 60s pop. 70s rock. 80s rock stack. Brit color distortion. I mean, 90s rock stack is setting 69. No big deal. It's kind of nice, I guess. The mids are plenty scooped on that one. Metal 2000. Metal IIC plus lead. How many settings are there? Just, you know, at starting places to mess around with various effects. interesting. It's got a pitch thing on there to make it sound like a baritone. It's passable. It starts to like jump around a little bit there. Oh, instant flub on that speaker. Yeah, it's doing something weird to the speaker on that metal octave setting. Neil Deluxe clearly trying to do like a Neil Young sound, and it's doing it. That sounds great. Just a touch of reverb. Cranked Princeton. It just keeps going and going. How many settings are there? Finally! 189 presets on this thing. I bet a lot of those were legacy presets from like previous Mustang amp models, because there's a lot of redundancy there. A lot of variety. I mean, the presets are all supposed to be like a taste test with a modeling amp like this. I got the sense that there was a lot of variety in here. All the basic effects that you would expect. Let's dive into... Yeah, there's tons of amps in here. I mean, there's option paralysis with something like this. Get into the effects. Yeah, tons of fuzzes and drives. All kinds of modulations. I'm sure it's going to be packed to the gills with all kinds of effects in here. I mean, you could spend a long time trying to go through all of it. I spent an hour just now going through the presets. I could spend a lot of time building patches with this thing. I think it's a good platform. It's plenty loud enough. Let's throw on an amp. Super reverb. See how loud we can get it. I'll turn up the pre-volume first. And then the master all the way. Starts to fall apart a bit at louder settings, but it is very loud and gave me a little bit of the bad tickle. You could definitely, fight a drummer with this amp. Pushing up into the higher wattage, I don't know. If you need a huge amount of headroom, this might not be the amp for you. But if you need something loud enough to get over a normal drummer, I think this will do it. Depending on your settings, you might flip out the speaker. I think there is a 2x12 model that might do better, that sort of thing. I say always for modeling stuff, if you're going to get into modeling amps, get the next up model as far as wattage goes that you would for a tube amp. Like just go another 50 watts, just to be safe, just to get the headroom that you need, because they handle wattage a little bit different and it'll give you the headroom that you might need in the future. But for my uses, this is more than loud enough. That was very loud there. For $500, this is the sort of thing where I wish this existed when I started playing guitar in the mid-90s. This would have been a game changer for me. Like, it's just packed with effects, packed with amps, easy to dial in, easy user interface here. I didn't dive into the other stuff here, but just scrolling around, like, I got it right away. I just got it. It's got a foot switch. It's got sends and returns and XLR outs and stuff like that. So you could use this. If it's not loud enough, you can plug it straight into the PA and you don't have to worry about it. Yeah, I think that's a smart box for $500. I mean, you're the one who has to decide if this is the right amp for you. You have to decide if this is going to fit what you're trying to do. If you're a seasoned veteran, an experienced guitarist, you're going to have a lot of opinions as far as that goes. If you're starting out, you could do a lot worse. For a first amp, I think you could do a lot worse. It's a bit of a dive, jumping into all the different amp models and all the different effects and stuff, but it gives you a playground, a sandbox to really explore, what exists in the world of effects and sounds. This is the sort of thing, like, I had an experience with my, I had a Line 6 Pod XT. And I used that for a number of years. And at a certain point, I realized I'm using only this certain amount of patches. I'm using these certain amps and these certain effects. And I just went and got the actual, real versions of those amps and effects because I wanted to continue to explore those sounds. I think this sort of thing is a great jumping off point for anyone getting into amps and effects and whatnot to find out what you actually like. Like, I've got the Super Reverb amp right here. What if I fall in love with this amp patch on here? Eventually, I'm going to go buy a Super Reverb. Fender knows that. That's why they're doing this. What if you fall in love with a Princeton? You're going to go buy a Princeton eventually. Fender's smart. They've got it figured out. But for $500, it's like a Whitman sampler. It's like a chocolate sampler. Figure out what you want and go from there. What do you guys think? I've just been flapping my gums. This is a long video. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Is this a worthwhile amp? I was pretty down on the GT40 when I had that in. I ended up returning it because it sounded bad. The speakers were out of phase or something. This doesn't have that issue. The patches sound fine. It sounds like a $500 modeling amp. And it's full of features. I don't know. I haven't even figured out how to use a lot of this stuff. I mean, you got this whole foot switch here with all these different settings. It looks like there might be a looper built into this. Record, dub, play, stop, undo. Oh yeah, there's a looper mode. I'll have to figure that out. That's brilliant. For a beginning guitarist, if this is your first amp and has a built-in looper, nothing taught me how to play guitar than when I got my first looper. Like, that did it for me. Yeah! It gets my thumbs up. I'm going to spend a lot more time exploring this, building my own patches, testing it out. Let me know how you want to, see me test this thing out, what kind of paces you want me to put it through, and I'll check back with it at some point. Until then, I'm exhausted. I've been doing this an hour and 20 minutes now, going through all these patches. Stay tuned. Like, subscribe, dislike, leave me rude, nasty comments, support us on Patreon, and stay grounded. Bye, everybody.